And so this is a great time for those of us with whole strategies to go in and buy, because as you just noted, the gentleman that sold us the first project has his other set. He's from California looking to go ahead and divest. And so we're in a position to really take advantage of that. So with a network like, the Multifamily Deal Makers, we can kind of say, guys, we have an experienced operator on the ground, and now we can safely leverage that and pull you into these properties that are below market, and we know that the value add is happening. We don't have to do a lot of rental raises. We can fill in vacancies. We can make sure, but ultimately we get to push down the price because our sellers are ready to move out of the market.
Welcome to another episode of the Robinson Review. My name is Todd Robinson, and we're super excited today to be hosting an in-person podcast with one of our Multifamily Dealmaker community members, MD Marshall. Flew in from Houston, has some other business here in Atlanta, and we wanted to bring this conversation to you to really explain a lot about what benefits community members receive in Multifamily Dealmakers. I want you to learn more about what MD has going on in Houston, also with the stuff that he's doing and the deals he's closing inside the community after joining just a short time ago. So I'm really excited to be joined here with MD Marshall. MD, please give the audience a little bit about yourself.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for having me, Todd. This has been something we've been talking about doing, and I'm looking forward to our time together today. As he mentioned, my name is MD Marshall from Manasseh Marshall, and I'm in from Houston. So, H-Town, we're representing. Basically, we're here just to talk about the fun we're having down there. We see being a part of the Deal Makers as just another pathway to our own goals that we had before we ever became familiar with them. My son reached out, talked to me about, hey, there's this gentleman that I really think is going to be an asset to our network. Let's meet him. Let's talk to him. We did. We got on the phone, and it was Todd. Great guy. We ended up moving forward with the relationship with him and joining the Deal Makers, and it became something that now we look forward to the times we spend together each week. And so it's, for us, been something that has really catapulted our acquisition of multifamily and our goals, and so we feel good about where we're headed.
That's awesome. Well, we'll get into the deals that we're closing within Multifamily Dealmakers in just a minute, because I think it's important for the listeners to hear. But let's take a step back. Let's peel back the onion, because I'm really interested in your origin story, and I want to learn more about MD Marshall and kind of how did you get involved in real estate to begin with?
No, I'm glad you asked. So basically, we're a unique bunch in that we have 4 generations of construction, and we have been able to see a path forward through that. As an origin, we hail from a little bitty town outside called Tyler, Texas, and that's like 4 hours outside of Houston. My father was one of 10 kiddos, and all of them are in construction some way. Engineers, architects, attorneys for construction and real estate. And so we just grew up around it. The family business was always construction and what we were going to do next and which projects everyone was working on. And so my father's the oldest of 10 kiddos, so imagine what that may have looked like. And so myself, I actually have an uncle who's my age. So go figure that, my mom and grandma. So what we ended up doing was it became something that we not only enjoyed, but it defined us. It became something that if you were in the family business, hey, we were going to help you get a head start. We were going to talk to you about it. We were going to make sure that you had what you needed to be successful, and that's what they did. So they ultimately put us in a position to really understand some of the nuances, and I think that's what we've carried forward.
Did your family and your father, was he an entrepreneur, would you say?
Absolutely. So my grandfather, right? So my grandfather was in construction, and had his own company. As a 7, 8-year-old, was out working with him. Saw my uncles all work together with us, and it worked. We had leadership, we had opportunities, and we had this love for finishing well. and doing great stuff with people. So that's what we saw. And then that passed to my father, who had his own
Is it the same company that has been
same
taken
company, and Dad expanded it to do more construction, and then of course down to me, and then now to my kiddos.
Yeah, I love that because I love learning about how people decide to get into real estate. For me, as a lawyer, I'm the first lawyer in my family, right? But I didn't realize this until a lot later in life. My dad is a psychologist, right? He's retired, but he had his own little private practice. And, I didn't when I was growing up in high school and stuff, and I didn't really think of him as an entrepreneur, but he was, right? He had his own business. He was responsible for feeding his own family and his finding his patients and clients and whatnot. And it seems like a lot of that entrepreneurial spirit is passed down.
Well, and that's what I was
family.
about to say. A lot of it, Todd, seems like it's caught rather than taught. So what we saw was, I had no idea. We were grooming, and I'm sure my father the same, was grooming us, to go out and be a great person in society, etc. But what he didn't realize is that the joy, the excitement, the camaraderie, the family, the fellowship that came along with just hanging out together, that was infectious. And so we ended up deciding, just by default, man, I want more of that. And so I think that's kind of where the entrepreneurial bug came in, not only with me, but also with our kiddo.
Yeah, and now you're carrying this torch forward and started a whole family business, right? You
Absolutely.
guys have current real estate holdings, and
we do.
And you do a lot of affordable housing work.
We do. So we have nice portfolio of properties that we've had. Been married 31 years, and so my wife and I started this about 2 or 3 years into our marriage, and so we've had holdings since then, and we still do. And we have had the pleasure of bringing our children up into the business through the ranks. Each of them has started out, like you hear the stories about the kiddos being in the garage, painting, picking up, fence work outside, roof work where they can, air conditioning work. They've done all of that. And so we've had them be right beside us. But what I like most about it is I get to spend every day not only working to make a living, but working with those I love to live with. And so by being around them all the time, I get to pour into them. Right. I know what kind of people they are because I see them when they stub their toe, not just, figuratively, but literally. Right, I've been around them when they make great decisions, and I get to celebrate that with them. And I've been around them when they make, not so good decisions, and we get to walk them and coach them up, teach them through that. So the family for us, working together, is not just about finances, but it's about, for us, freedom. And so we get the opportunity to do some of the things that we've always hoped, but we get to do it with people we love.
Right. Well, that kind of goes into what I want to know is what is your why, right? Why are you working so hard? Why are you doing all this?
What's good question. Good question. What we've decided is, for my family and I, and this is different for everyone, but we kind of have some pillars, right? Faith, family, freedom, and fun. So we basically have said we want to have time and the ability to work on those things in those orders. We want to be, very mindful of our faith, and we consider that important to us. We also want to not get ahead of our family. We have 4 children, and 2 boys and 2 girls, and they all are in one way or the other associated with the business. We have an attorney, a real estate attorney. We have a real estate financier, an architect, and a marketing and construction. So all of them are around the business, but they have their own lane. And so we wanted to make sure that they had freedom to pursue what they wanted to. And so for us, it wasn't just about, making the dollar or running after it. It was about making sure you ran after what your passion was and what you felt called to do. And let's find a place for that inside the family business.
Yeah.
And so that's what we've done.
Yeah, kind of keeping it all in the family.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, find your lane, and then master it.
Yeah, it's hard to work with family.
It is.
I would say difficult. I mean, I've worked with my wife for a while as well, and she's my biggest, cheerleader.
Sure.
My accountability person.
Absolutely.
My sounding board.
Absolutely.
So yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, and we have the same thing. My wife's the same way. She's my sounding board, you know, as well. North Star in some situations where we kind of say, hey, wait a minute, this is our direction, family, and then we want to have fun. And the way we balance the pressures of making sure that we perform is, we laugh. We want to make sure that we don't take ourselves too seriously. So when you come hang out with us, as you've done, we're going to have some fun.
Yeah.
We're going to make sure that you understand tomorrow will come. So this too shall pass. Whatever's happening today good, it's going to pass. Whatever's happening today that's terrible, it's going to pass. Mm-hmm. And by keeping that levity allows us to kind of take a step back, not take yourself too seriously, and have some fun.
Yeah.
Because this is the freedom we wanted.
Yeah.
You know, this is the freedom we wanted.
And that's what you're after, and I think that's what, that's really, as part of the piece of the puzzle, what investing in multifamily really gives you.
Absolutely.
Right? So when you were looking at programs and you guys decided to join Multifamily Dealmakers, what was some of the things that turned you on to the program?
Yeah, no, good question. For us, basically, we wanted someone that we could relate to, and we found that. We wanted someone who had expertise because we felt like that's essential. And then we wanted to allow it to be organic. And we felt like we had someone we could relate to. We felt like you had the expertise. And we felt like being in the group, once we saw what the I call the tribe, was consisting of, very competent, capable people who are passionate about making lives better for themselves.
Yeah.
And then landing and closing. And that to me was important.
Right.
So,
and if I remember correctly, the deal, we'll talk about Garden Oaks in just a minute, but the deal that you acquired, and I think that was your first time really kind of structuring a syndication and using other people's money.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. This was the first syndication. Wanted to be sure we did it correctly. Don't like to gamble with my own, let alone anyone else's. So I wanted to make sure we had someone who was an expert in that area, and that was the reason that, the fit was perfect.
Made sense. Yeah. That's awesome. And you joined, I think, in December?
Yep.
And Garden Oaks closed what? It's an 80-unit property, right?
80-unit property.
Tell us a little bit about the deal.
1st of May.
Yeah.
So we saw this opportunity. My love, my passion. When we talk about how I told the kiddos, finding a lane in our business that you enjoy, and then master it. That's what was told to me. So I was only communicating what was shared to me by my father, who was in construction. And so my passion became multifamily and development, of course. But I liked affordable housing development or development for low to moderate
kind of workforce
housing. Folks who still need good housing opportunities and choices, but need someone who knows how to put it together, make it smart, make it good. And we felt like we could bring that niche to the marketplace. And it's been fabulous.
Right.
What happens is we have been looking for two things. We want properties that have the ability to be scaled because there's a lot of them, and we wanted properties that had either motivation from one area or the other, motivated seller, or the properties had a value add proposition that we could go in and inside of 12 months make some solutions.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And this deal that you found that you had the relationship with the seller in order to get access to the opportunity.
Right. We had done a previous project with the seller. They'd seen that we performed.
Right.
And that's important. I think performance is important. Execution is what matters. And so although we like what we do and we like the people we do it with, execution is what wins the day in the end.
You got to be known as a closer, right? And that's important with brokers. It's important with sellers. You got to be known as someone who's going to actually execute and close, because if you pass on too many deals,
that's exactly
or
right.
you put stuff under contract and you terminate, the market's going to know.
And this particular seller did just as you've shared. He said, this guy closes.
Yep.
I have something else. Reached out to, I had been just one of the other things we do is we consistently follow up. We don't miss following up.
Right.
So when we got back to follow up with him again, he says, yes, I am ready now. Hadn't been ready for years,
Right.
a couple years. Became ready, reached out, made it happen, put it together.
So you joined the community in December, closed your first syndication deal within 5 months after joining.
Yep.
And what I also love, and this is kind of, again, an organic story of Multifamily Deal Makers, is that you have other members on the team, the GP team, that you sourced through the community.
No, absolutely.
That are providing a lot of sweat equity. You know, maybe not dollars.
Yeah, and I sweat, and I help them sweat too.
I know, you put 'em to work.
I put them to work, and so
You know,
I know when we met, you were like, okay, I want to do this, I want to do that. I said, Todd, I got it. This is who's going to do that. This is where he's going to be. This is where that person is going to be. And I thought it was a good fit. But yes, one of the gentlemen who is in the GP side of the project is a Multifamily Deal Makers member.
Yeah.
And I said, hey, this is the deal. You have more time than I do.
Exactly.
But I feel like I have something to give as well, and experience. Let's put our heads together and let's go get it.
Yeah, yeah. So he's a community member that is not necessarily putting any dollars, but is going to get a percentage of the GP
Absolutely.
stake. Is going to get a part of the acquisition fee, and is going to now own 80 units. 80,
Yep.
You know, that's
Which was his goal. So when I met him, so quick story, and shout out, he knows who he is. He met me, walked up to me and said, hey, I want to do multifamily syndication. I said, I like his motivation.
Yeah.
What do we do? How do we do this together? He lines out what his goals are.
Yeah.
And so that's the other thing. You got to have your goals in mind.
Right.
Because if you have your goals in mind, when the right person hears it, they'll say, hey, that lines up with mine. Let's work together. So I always give him kudos, because most people would say, well, that's a big goal. That's a far reach. Because I asked him, have you ever done one before?
Right. No, and him and I have been working together, right?
Yeah.
He's a community member. I was mentoring him on how to.
No.
You know, and actually I think the way he met you, I'll take credit for it.
You got to take credit for it.
Because part of my goal setting plan for him, and we really curate a 90-day launch plan for each member of this is what you need to do. Go to these events, meet these people. You know, we formed his holding company. And he met you at a real estate event,
He
right?
did. He met me at the local Houston RIA meeting.
Yeah.
So shout out to the RIA meeting. But I believe that you never get to where you don't need to be learning. So I'm always in learning mode.
Yep.
And so I still go to our local RIA, which is Real Estate Investment Club meetings.
Yep.
And so he was there. Walks up to me. I think I had done a presentation there for the group. And he told me just what I shared with you. And I was floored. I was impressed.
Yeah.
And I said, that's the kind of guy I want to be around.
You know what's so funny, too, is he's such an introverted guy, too.
Yeah.
He's like, he would rather be at home, you know, hanging out at his house.
He's the inside numbers guy.
I told him, I mean, he's the perfect guy to have him, to crunch the numbers, you know,
underwriter,
review the leases, underwrite, call the insurance guy. But I remember telling him, I was like, William, you've got to get out. You've got to get out. You got to go meet people.
You told him right.
Right? I mean, the more hands you shake, the more money you make.
Yeah. Your network affects your net worth. Yeah.
Yeah, network. That's another cliche, right? Your network.
Your network
improves your net worth.
Improves your net worth. Well, and I think he would concur. If you talk to him now after closing, you'll see that he would be a great person to say, you know, what Todd has taught us actually works, because to your point, didn't put any money in.
Right.
Did a lot of sweat equity work, which was valuable.
Yep.
But it wasn't wasted time.
Right.
Saved me time, and was meaningful because it was effective. We executed and we closed.
And it just goes to show you, for those that are interested in getting into multifamily, getting into real estate, it's a team sport, right? And every member of the team plays a role. As long as you pull your weight, you know, you're going to get a seat at the table, right?
That's right.
Everyone's going to eat. And this particular instance, you know, this is a Multifamily Deal Makers deal, which is obviously led by MD, but William and those that are also getting a piece of the pie.
Sure.
You don't have to have a bunch of money to go buy a $6 million piece of property, which this is, right?
That's exactly right.
We're going to use other people's money to buy it. We use other people's money to buy it. And we have members of the team that are putting in the sweat equity. So what is the sweat equity? What did he do? He reviewed all the leases.
Yep.
He did the unit walks.
Yep.
He called the insurance guy. I don't know if he negotiated the property management agreement.
No, I did that part,
Yeah.
but he
A lot of the underwriting he did.
a lot of the underwriting, and then the pieces that were important to me were just as you've shared. And he did, basically, he was teachable as well.
Yeah,
He brought
right.
some of that to the table, but as a team member, he was able to do it in a way that made sense for us. And I was able to be in my lane and continue to talk with the seller and make sure that we landed the plane. And then you, of course, came, visited us, and we appreciated that whole thing.
Yeah, that was kind of spur of the moment. But
Yeah, it was.
I knew, I don't visit every Multifamily Dealmakers member.
What?
So it's a special treat. But I
Yes, sir.
I just because for two reasons really, because I knew we were going to close a deal, and
Right.
I knew it was going to be successful, and I wanted to come and show that appreciation, but also walk the deals, and
No, I appreciate that.
and we're raising capital through Multifamily Dealmakers through the community as well,
Absolutely.
and being able to tell people that, hey, I've been there, I know the deal,
Right.
I'm vouching for it.
No, absolutely.
It's
You being there is a tremendous credibility builder.
Right.
It says the guy that puts all these things together nationwide cares enough to come down to Houston, hang out with the guy, one of his newest, network members, and say, yeah, I think there's value here. I want to take some time out. And I'll never cease to share how much I appreciated that. I really did. Early in my relationship with you and the Multifamily Deal Makers, so it was great. It was huge.
Yeah, and as much as real estate is a team sport, it's also a relationship business.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? So, and guys, the reason why MD was able to secure this deal with this seller that, by the way, has 14 other properties to sell in the Houston market, and MD is first in line to be that preferred buyer. But that's because of the networking. That's because of the relationship building. It's because of the reputation that you built in Houston. So
no, I appreciate that, and so just know, my thoughts are the Multifamily Deal Makers is a network of folks who have decided that they don't want to just talk about acquiring multifamily. They want to actually put action to it and make it happen. And so I'm glad that I get to be a part of the expansion of it into Texas. Want to do whatever we can do to land that plane and just be way more active. And so just feel like there's more to come.
Yeah. Houston chapter.
That's
Here we
right.
go.
That's right. That's right. Multifamily deal. Hey, let me tell you what my son told me.
Yeah.
And Trey is off camera. He's here
Right.
with us. He said, "Dad, Multifamily Deal Makers is MD."
Oh yeah.
So then let me tell you what my wife says. She
What?
says, "Well, Trey, Multifamily Deal Makers is MDM, Multifamily Deal Makers." I said,
Right.
"Okay." So so I said, "We're gonna make this Texas chapter, make him proud with this Texas
that's awesome.
chapter." So
That's awesome.
I'm excited about that, buddy.
Well, and having you in the community also really, obviously you're way more experienced than a lot of the newer members who come in, right?
Sure.
We have a lot of members that, they want to transition. They're in the corporate world, or they've done some single family, or they've done some wholesaling, and they just don't know the first thing about multifamily, and it can get daunting, right?
Good question.
To come in to have all the, we have all the tools available to start on this process, but we also have really experienced members like yourself that can help even mentor and educate some other newer members.
Well, you said it right. What I think you've curated is a team where each of us can find our role. So for someone like me, who's been a GP now as of closing of this project, but I've seen myself as a sponsor or joint venture partner plenty of times.
Right.
The concern was now there's folks who understand their individual roles, and now we can go into the Multifamily Deal Makers huddle, so to speak, and then say, okay, MD has a project, who has time to do this part of it, or what have you. So I see us now being able to call out plays better because we know who can fill what role on the team.
Yeah, we actually had a kind of an impromptu call yesterday that Amer's leading. He's one of our members up in Michigan. Another, he's probably worth $40 million, right? He's a great asset to the community, but he's got 5 active deals that Multifamily Deal Makers members are all pitching in and working on and underwriting. So
nice.
That's exactly the kind of community that I wanted to build, and the void I wanted to fill of having the expertise of actual, with my legal background, knowing how to structure these deals and being an actual deal maker myself.
Yeah.
So
Well, and that was the piece, just to break in on you, that was the piece that, and I know the gentleman you may have said who had thought, highly of you when you spoke, that was the piece that moved us. As you know, when we met with you, I told you what my decision time was. Then I told you this day I'll make a decision.
Right.
I called you back. We made the decision. So I do what I say. And then when I met you, you did the same thing. You were a person that did what you said, and that means a lot. That meant a lot to us. But not only do you do what you say in this space, you had experience, and you'd already done a lot of it. So, again, I just think it's a hidden gem, which is why I jumped on it immediately and wanted to be a part of bringing it and expanding it. But I liked the idea that you were not only advising us, but you were actually joining us.
Right.
That means you were telling people, don't do as I say, do as you see, do what I'm doing.
Right.
And that to me was unique, and it was attractive.
Yeah.
So that's so that's why anything that I'm asking people to do, I'm in them.
Right. Doing it yourself, right?
Right. Just don't, follow my lead.
Right.
And so if I'm in it, I'm not in it, haphazardly or without having done the due diligence. So those are the things that matter to us. So I just wanted you to know that, and the audience to know that. So when they reach out to you, they can look forward to that. I don't know how much more, visits. I don't expect you to come out and see us all. But I do appreciate it that it happened then, and you've given me a lot to kind of model what I do after. So I appreciate that.
Well, yeah, awesome, man. Well, let's transition a little bit to, how you're leveraging your expertise in land development work, because this is your first foray into kind of multifamily syndication, and you found the mentorship and the guidance you needed to get that done. But you've got your own set of expertise in land development that you're now leveraging and providing services to other other landowners that need to figure out what to do with their property.
Oh, you said it right. That's exactly what we do. Clip that. That's the clip. So, but basically, you hit it on the head. After 26 years in the business, master's degree in land development from Texas A&M University, master's degree in community development from Prairie A&M University. My background in construction, I've worked for the public sector, a little city in Texas called Bryan, Texas. I was in community development there. I've worked for a private developer and worked for a lender, CDFI. So I feel very fortunate to have been able to see, 360 degrees of development. And it's my passion. What I've seen is a lot of people are frustrated because their pain point is, I have this land and I don't know what to do with it. Or I've been given this land, or I bought this land and I'm just paying taxes. It's not paying me. And that's the solution we brought to the table. We were doing it for free for over a decade.
Right.
Because, I didn't have a son who helped me monetize that talent, to be candid. But I enjoyed it so much. And that's how it's something that you're going to be able to do forever, is because you do it for free.
Right.
We don't now, but at that point we did. And we loved seeing people understand how to get the most out of their asset. And so that's what we do now. We have a land development analysis, which we've copywritten, and it is a 3-phased research deliverable. It's a consulting service that can be tapped into by anyone, whether they are a big landowner with 100 acres. We have a 100-acre client. Or they're a person with, a little bitty 10,000 square foot lot.
Right.
If the land is sick, we make it well, is what we say. We help you get the prescription for profitability, is another thing we say a lot. So our goal is that, and it's been great. And that's what we're here in Atlanta for. We basically have a client in a little bitty town called Elberton. So we'll be up there helping him decide what to do with his land. We've already done the preliminary pieces, and we like to, just like you did with us, we like to kick the dirt.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that plays right into your multifamily strategy, your multifamily growth strategy. You've got the land development kind of consulting services, but, talk a little bit more about why you think multifamily specifically, how does that play into your generational wealth
Sure.
plan?
Sure. So we had always had the land development as an on-road
Right.
to owning multifamily. Our goal was for our multifamily holdings to be the legacy of our asset base. So that was going to be the thing that we used. Ultimately, everybody has their amount, so I won't go into that, but we have a goal of assets under management for our family office, and that was the goal. And the best way for us to get there was the value add that multifamily gave us. By being in the development space, I've done, hundreds and hundreds of units of multifamily development in my positions on my jobs in the past, et cetera. And so then to pivot that to our own holdings was huge. And that is why Multifamily Deal Makers made a lot of sense for us, because it was a way for us to expedite that. Instead of us going and doing it all ourselves, which is what we were clearly ready and preparing to do, this allowed us to
shorten that time frame.
Shorten that horizon.
Right.
And that's been what's so attractive to us.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's no point in going out and making all these, stupid mistakes that people make in trying to acquire multifamily, acquire your first property, syndicate a deal using other people's money. I mean, guys, these are securities regulations that you have to navigate, right? These are private offerings that are regulated by the government, right? So it's not something to take lightly, and it's not something to do on your own, right?
Right.
Because
and that was the piece. And so when you said it, I said, you know what? Just like we tell people, let us help you. We tell them in our land development analysis, we will help you do the market research. We will help you and direct you on how to do your site research and make sure that the land is appropriately sized. And we'll also tell you how to package the financing. We'll put all that together so that it's in one comprehensible, digestible format. And then we will even talk to your financiers, your bankers, CPA, your lawyers to make sure they understand your goals and where you're headed. And it was just picked up. People have loved it because they know they need it, but they don't want to hire 5 different people, so they get it in one person. And we've done that. And so that's how we got here, and that's how our LDA has really kind of exploded.
That's awesome. I'm so happy for you guys that you guys have that offer out there.
Thank you for that.
That's amazing. Well, let's transition a little bit to kind of the Houston market. And I, before we do that, I was actually having coffee with an investor this morning before I came here, and husband and wife, both kind of senior executives. He's at EY currently. She was at Salesforce, and the culture kind of changed, and she kind of needed a career break, which was a kind of a high-powered, VP over there at that big company. She found Multifamily Deal Makers. She wanted to invest in multifamily, wanted to be a sponsor, buy her own properties, both of them, and then also wanted to invest passively. And so she's going to invest in the Houston deal. And one of the things we were talking about this morning is I said, look, now that she's not working, guess what she's now able to tap into? Now she's going to be in charge of your real estate company. She becomes a real estate professional. And now she's able to offset any passive losses from active income, right? Which is one of the huge tax benefits.
Consequence. Yes, that's a huge tax event for them.
Yeah, so they were really excited about that. They had some disposable income, and they found, again, deals to invest in, the expertise through Multifamily Deal Makers.
I love that. In our Houston market I think that's a great entree to some of the opportunities that exist there.
Right.
As you know, the Texas market generally is 14 to 15% lower in cost of acquisitions than places across the nation. And so we've kept our thumb on the pulse of what acquisitions look like for us. And I think right now, Houston specifically, after our hurricanes, we still haven't recovered all of our housing units.
Wow.
So we're still 7,100 units shy of where we were before Katrina even.
Oh, wow.
So we just haven't.
God, what year was
Hurricane
Katrina?
Harvey. Yeah.
Katrina was what, 2000?
2006.
6, 7? Okay, wow.
Katrina, and then Harvey 2017.
Yeah, that was right at Houston. That one came straight.
And so it takes a lot of time to bring those units back, and we keep our fingers on the pulse of what our communities need, and we just haven't been able to bridge that gap. So we have a huge opportunity to create housing of all types, A, B, and C, workforce as well as luxury. There's just a lot of opportunities there. Our niche is the workforce, just because we have a passion for that. But we don't pass up good projects.
Right.
We make
Right.
sure that everything we do makes sense. And right now in Houston, the market is open. Now we are seeing it's a buyer's market for us there.
Yeah.
And so this is a great time for those of us with whole strategies to go in and buy, because as you just noted, the gentleman that sold us the first project has his other set. He's from California, looking to go ahead and divest. And so we're in a position to really take advantage of that. So with a network like, the Multifamily Deal Makers, we can kind of say, guys, we have an experienced operator on the ground.
Right.
And now we can safely leverage that and pull you into these properties that are below market. And we know that the value add is happening. We don't have to do a lot of rental raises. We can fill in vacancies. We can make sure, but ultimately we get to push down the price.
Yep.
Because our sellers are ready to move out of the
Yeah.
market.
And that's I think one of the keys to finding good deals is absentee owners, out-of-state owners. You're always going to find value in an out-of-state owner because they don't have their eye on the ball. Right. They're relying on third-party property management, which everyone does for the most part. But if you can't see, feel, and touch your property, you're just not going to care about it as much.
That's right.
Right.
One thing we say is, you have to inspect what you expect.
I love that.
Even with your property managers. And so we do too, as you know, use them, but we're boots on the ground.
Yeah.
And so we look for that. And so, that's one of the other things that come out of the relationship with the deal maker.
Yeah, 100%. And implementing the strategy. And one of the things we teach is, what is the strategy, right? What is the buy box? What are you looking for? How old, what vintage are you looking for? But then, I was telling a room full of investors 2 days ago, the strategy that we use is the same strategy Blackstone uses, right?
Yeah.
But the biggest asset manager, they buy, they buy billions of dollars of real estate at one time.
That's right.
But it's so funny. I've read Steve Schwartzman's book, which you should read, by the way. He's the CEO of Blackstone. Buy it, fix it, sell it. It's the same strategy. That's literally Blackstone's real estate investment strategy in a nutshell. And for value add multifamily, which is what we typically focus on, you focus on, it's the best product out there. You're looking for absentee owners, management inefficiencies, right? Under market rents, and ways to in this particular deal in Houston, another really attractive piece of it was this little inside baseball that we found out that the seller got into some beef with the housing authority.
Yep.
And the housing authority was not giving him any contracts.
Right.
And the housing authority said, we want MD to own this property.
Yeah. Right.
And
we like people that like what we do.
Yeah, we want a local person.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't realize they had that much authority to even just say, we're not going to give you any HAP contracts for this property. Right. So that's an immediate value add just by having that relationship with those housing authorities.
And that's part of it. We've built, and most folks, if you're doing what you enjoy, you're going to leave signs. And we've left all along the way. People have seen, by looking at the projects we've finished over time, you say, wait, this guy has an interest in this space and he's done it well. So we want those kind of operators. And I think we were able to leverage that. And that's what we're always looking for. What's our leverage point? Right. And I think we were able to find that in that one and in future projects. And one of the things you should know too, and for the listeners, you talked about Blackstone. Blackstone came in and created a subsidiary called April Housing. April Housing does workforce and affordable housing. So Blackstone said after the pandemic, wait a second, some people down there didn't suffer as much as others.
Right.
We need to kind of take a look at that, a deeper dive. After taking a deeper dive, April Housing is the vehicle with which they use to do a more affordable housing type project. So if you look them up, April Housing, I'm not a spokesman for them, but we follow the whales.
Yep.
And so when I knew that we were on the right track, when someone like Blackstone said April Housing is going to be created expressly to take advantage of these opportunities in that market, then I knew we were on the right track.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's not going to go away. I mean, it's a supply and demand. It's a factor of supply and demand, and I particularly like workforce housing versus Class A,
Sure.
fancy products. Because I mean, sure,
Sure.
maybe you can get higher rents than some of those Class
Sure.
A units,
Sure.
and maybe the tenant mix is a little more sophisticated, but
Right.
It doesn't feel as good.
It doesn't. Well, we do
Number
impact
one.
investing,
Right.
right? So one of the things that we try to share, and again, I like that fact that in Multifamily Deal Makers, you've allowed us to find our lane,
Yeah.
and we don't have to be anything but who we are. And I was on one of your calls, and we were talking about housing, and you had a gentleman there that was speaking, and then he started talking about workforce housing. What was his name? Just previous.
You talking about Nick?
Nick.
Yeah.
And so he was ringing my bell.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so I got to share with the group, hey, not only is Nick right on, but we see it as an evergreen market.
Right.
We see that as something that'll never go away. It'll always have support because impact investing really moves the needle, not just financially, but emotionally. Because a lot of people, come from different places.
Right.
And so when you're creating futures, you got to realize everybody doesn't start from the same place.
Very
so
true.
for me,
Yeah.
it's an honor to be able to provide housing for people who have sometimes been, overlooked and underserved. So
Yeah,
that's just a
100%.
personal thing. But ultimately, it's a combination. And that's what I like about impact investing.
Mm-hmm.
It's mission and margin.
Mm-hmm.
The mission is I want to do well while I do good. And so to do that, you have to have margin. You have to make a profit.
Right.
So our partners need to know, MD and Todd love the communities in which they serve, but also they're showing that they respect the invested dollar by making sure we get a sound return.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, that's, and that's again why the benefit of investing in real estate.
Sure.
And understanding your buy box and understanding your underwriting, right?
Sure.
So, and workforce housing is a great asset product. I've got a student housing deal under contract at the moment.
Like student housing.
We've got, there's other newer products or, definitely Class A, Class B is also very good. But speaking of returns, one of the reasons why this particular deal that you were able to find and curate and close was so attractive was because of what you negotiated with the seller. So talk a little bit about how that
creative financing.
Yeah.
So depending on the opportunity, sometimes we get these unique moments where you just see eye to eye.
Right.
And so in a field where there's often a lot of tumult and a lot of people who are drawing and crossing drawing swords and fighting, we have taken a different approach. And that is, let me understand your why, and then maybe I can help you understand my why, and let's see if we can get there together. And that's what we did with this particular seller.
Right.
Once I understood his why, his pressure point, then we were able to put together what made sense for him. And we got seller financing.
Yep.
For the project, and
90% seller financing.
We got something that you normally don't get, but we told him we could move quickly.
Yep.
And so remember, speed kills, right? So it kills the procrastination. It kills opportunity cost to get in the way. All these other things, and we moved on that. Yep. So we were able to give him what he needed, which was a quick exit, but we were able to get what we needed, which was a lower equity to close.
Right, exactly.
And that was what made sense for us. So you normally don't get 90% financing, and you normally don't get some of the other caveats that we got, but we were able to make them comfortable because we had a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
We had executed before, and I think he saw the professionalism with which we came to him.
Right.
And so what we said we were going to do, we did. We kept commitments. We communicated well, and I think that boded well in the end.
Yeah, 90% seller financing, guys, on a $5.7 million deal, and it's unheard of.
Yeah.
Usually on deals those size, the seller would have some sort of debt on the property.
Yeah.
But this particular seller didn't, and so closing a deal with creative financing, seller financing is always going to be easier. Than bank financing. Bank financing has its place, obviously.
Sure.
99% of deals are closed with bank financing.
Agency debt, bank debt.
It's just, but it's just there's more red tape, more hurdles to jump through.
Right.
You're scrutinized a little bit more.
Absolutely.
Third party reports. I mean, all those things you kind of sail right past through in a seller financing deal. So that's
and
awesome.
So we have our own structures that we looked at, and we put some things in place, making sure we had the requisite safety protocols in place. We sailed right through those because they were something that you and I and the seller got on the same page with. And then we made it happen, and he was so enamored with that, he made 2 more units available to us, which we'll be closing shortly. So,
or 2 more properties. Yep.
yeah, and so that was good. So that was the creative financing when you can get it, and that's what we always say. They're out there,
right?
But we have to make sure that we have to have people that are willing to do the hard work, make the phone calls, and that's another reason why you don't want to get discouraged. If you've been looking, you haven't found it, it's just one phone call away.
Mm-hmm.
So
how did you meet the seller to begin with?
What
I know he's been in the market for a long time, but
sure. What I do is whenever I'm in an area, I do what I call a blanket. I throw a blanket over the project. So whenever I'm in a market, like even that I'm here, I throw a blanket over where I'm at, and anything within a 1 mile radius of where I'm at, I do a search. I have we look at anything that's in that area, because if I'm already there, and I go back again and again and again, people start to know me, and I start to know them. I know the market. It's a sub-market strategy I have.
Okay.
So I met this seller because I was looking to buy some land around him. And when I bought other land around him, I just reached out to him. If you're ever interested in selling, I'd like to be your go-to person.
Okay.
This is what I'm doing.
That's great.
Showed him what I did. He saw it. We closed. Had nothing to do with him, but that's why we follow up.
Yeah.
And then when I did want his, I bought it, and then he had already seen what we had done, and that's how it happened. So he saw what we had done. We did a deal with him where he made 7 figures. And then when this came available, because we used that same follow-up model, then I wanted to be top of mind.
Yeah. And
when he got ready to sell, he reached out, and we fired off earnest money within 72 hours of him mentioning it to me.
But the initial contact was a cold outreach.
Outreach.
I love it. I mean, you got to put yourself in those positions, right?
Yeah.
You're going to miss what does Wayne Gretzky say? You're going to miss
right.
100%
of the shots you don't take. and we believe in taking the shots, especially when they're what we consider strategic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
No, it's good stuff. And what about you? What made you go from just being an attorney to then?
Yeah, I mean, so being an attorney and then jumping into multifamily.
Because you could just stay on that side and do fabulous,
well,
right?
It's funny. I've been called an entrepreneur that just happened to get a law degree.
Okay.
And I kind of have that, again, going back to my father's story, I have that entrepreneurial blood in my veins, and I was able to pump that with the law firm. I started the law firm with a laptop in my basement, in 2018 by myself, and now we're over 25 staff members, 13 lawyers, doing deals, representing all sorts of clients all around the country. But I also knew, and I was making money for these real estate investors for over a decade, right? I was representing them, seeing how much money they're making on closing statements,
Got it.
drafting the closing statements,
got it.
Thinking like, well, man, why not me?
Why not me? Right.
And then really my first deal ever was a 100-unit property in Carrollton, Georgia. And it was really my positioning. I always had the law firm, but I was sort of a silent GP partner on the team because I was representing a client, and I actually found the deal. Broker contacted me. I was still doing my cold outreach. I was having lunches and dinners with just my network.
Sure.
He brought this 100-unit deal, again, absentee owner from California. I wonder if it's the same guy.
I know.
I wonder.
Yeah.
But I was able to piece together, and this is kind of where I found my big niche is I was able to put together the money people and the operators. And I call them strategic partnerships. So again, another way to get into your first deal is through these strategic partnerships. I was able to find the deal, I brought in the operators, and I connected the capital guy. And because of that, I got a seat at the table. And this was, probably 7 years ago on the GP team. And I was still running my law firm, so I wasn't an active operator at the time, but I was still able to reap the benefits. Got the acquisition fee, got passive income, monthly cash flow, and then when we sold, got my huge, GP check at the end of the day. But from that, I knew that I always wanted to be in real estate, always wanted to be an owner and an operator. But I still have, I've got a big family. I've got a busy law firm. What I'll do is I'll start a business, I'll grow it, and then I'll put the right people in place to run it.
Okay. Nice.
Which is kind of what we're doing. I mean, the law firm is doing well. I've got other partners in place that are helping me run it. I'm still the managing partner. My real estate firm, I just hired, Reggie, who's my COO. So we're running that company. Reggie. We've got about, close to 1,000 units, almost $100 million of assets under management. And then Multifamily Deal Makers is kind of my baby now. So we're growing that
good,
big. But it's the same story, right? It's wanting financial freedom, wanting that certain lifestyle, and wanting, really my big why is kind of building generational wealth and your legacy, right?
Yeah.
So when I leave this world, what are people going to say about me? What am I leaving behind? Because you can't take your money with you. You can't take your real estate with you.
Nope.
When you go.
Nope.
So what are you going to take with you, and what are you going to build, and what are you going to leave behind for the next generation? So that's what kind of gets me going on a daily basis.
I love that. And I think, as I mentioned earlier, that's why we are so aligned. I think it's about your why. Mm-hmm. And all of us have to figure that out for ourselves. And then we have to be in a position to do whatever it takes to make sure we're spending every waking moment pursuing that in a way that, helps you, doesn't hurt others, and make certain that you're leaving something behind. So yep. I think that's part of the reason we did connect. And as you know, when you were in Houston, my wife was with me.
Yeah, got the whole team.
Yeah, my son was with us, driving, pushing us, getting us where we needed to be. Solomon and Trey is with us here now, and then Chloe is our real estate attorney, so she's coming.
I didn't realize she was a real estate attorney. That's awesome.
Well, we're calling her she's an attorney.
She's working on it.
Who's working, in the real estate space.
Yeah.
She has other interests, of course, but we're excited that she has picked up the mantle to run with that. She's just fabulous. And then Faith, who does she's an architect.
Nice.
And so our goal is, when you talk about leaving this for them, that's exactly right.
Right.
Is the generational wealth. The legacy of not only hard work, but the reward of hard work. And I think those both have to go hand in hand.
100%. Man, MD, thanks so much for being here. Really appreciate your time on the Robinson Review, coming all the way from Houston. Now, if the folks listening and watching want to find you, how can they do that?
Sure. So if you have land and you want to know what the possibilities are, reach out to me. I'm a land development expert, and I'd love to be a part of your solutions. You can find the link somewhere around this below, and we'll look forward to talking with you soon.
Awesome. Thanks for tuning in, guys. If you're interested to learn more about Multifamily Deal Makers as well, we'll have some links in the bottom of the show notes. And until next time, we'll see you then.